Yo peeps, Mischief here. So today we're going to be looking into the moon, okay? Loads of conspiracy theories around it, so I want to delve into this one. Here we go. Cue the title sequence. There we go. Title sequence away. So welcome everyone to the Conspiracy Cupboard. So if you're looking forward to the new episodes coming up on Trivial, that is Spotify exclusive podcast for the Conspiracy Cupboard. So go over to Spotify, check us out over there. We've got new episodes coming up. Me and Mr. Dermy, we're going to be hosting that. We're going to be covering little bits of what I'm going to be covering in the Conspiracy Cupboard, talking about random topics and getting guests on as well. So exciting content to come. Also on Spotify, you will be able to find these episodes that I do every single week for you on the Conspiracy Cupboard. So you're still going to be able to find those episodic episodes. I keep saying this, episodic episodes on there as well. So today we're going to be looking into the moon. Okay, so I've actually been told that it's easier to explain why there isn't a moon than why there is a moon. The moon that we see in our skies is perfect in orbit, shape, positioning away from us. You know, the fact that we have a lunar eclipse that, you know, blocks out the sun. All these things, the effects on the tide, possible effects on our mood. So this is why I want to delve into this, because there was actually recorded quite possibly a time before the moon existed. So this is where we're going to start off. So in ancient writings and traditions then, one can find proof of a time when the moon did not exist. Democritus and Anaxagoras mention in that there was a time when no moon could be seen in the night skies. In describing the history of Greek region Arcadia, Aristotle writes that the Plesians lived in an area since very old times and when the moon did not exist. Now there are many mentions through this from Rhodes and from ancient Greece about the Plesians living in a time before the moon, and they are spoken of quite a lot. In Plutarch's work Models, we find the following. There are Arcadians of Eldava following the so-called pre-lunar people. Similarly, Ovid wrote, the Arcadians are said to possess their land before the birth of Zeus, and the folk is older than the moon. So whether this was just trying to, you know, give a bit more credence to these people and whatever else, we actually have a rough time of date for when the moon first appeared in the skies. So evidence as well can be found in other parts of the world other than just Greece for the fact that there might have been no moon previously in the skies. So in Bolivian symbols on the wall of the courtyard of Calisea, built in 13,000 BC, they provide evidence that the moon came into orbit around the Earth at a specific moment in that time thousands of years ago, long before the mainstream historians refer to as recorded history. So this is where obviously I have done a couple of episodes before on ancient civilizations. I'm going to be pulling some more in, and we're doing a What's the Deal with Graham Hancock, which I've been meaning to do for quite some time, and that is coming. And then I'm going to delve into obviously Graham Hancock's works and stuff. So Graham Hancock's never written anything about this, but I'm just tying him in here because this is where I'm going to go with the ancient hypothesis of the Younger Dryas, because this story of the moon appearing in our skies ties into these kind of cataclysmic times. Cataclysmic. Don't want to get that word wrong, do you? On YouTube. So the cataclysmic, episodes that we have seem to coincide with this event of 12,500 years ago, the Younger Dryas, and this is mentioned as a time when the moon possibly came into orbit. Now, I'm just going to divulge very slightly off here. So the prehistoric people that we are talking about here, prehistory, are people like the Sumerian gods, the Anunnaki, you know, the gods of the old Hindus, and many old tribes and stuff that describe ancient people, along with the Egyptians, of a race of people, you know, the Atlanteans, whatever you want to call them, living here on Earth or coming from another place. And obviously in Sumerian text, if you want to believe the work of the Sitchin there, he describes, you know, the Anunnaki coming down and basically making the humans. And this is another tangent that we can get into with the moon as well. Basically making the humans as a slave race before this. So if these people were there and they remember a time before the does this then mean that the moon could possibly be some kind of space station? So I've got a couple more references here if you want to go check them out. So we've got mentions obviously from Aristotle and from Greece and places like that. We've got obviously mentions as well in the book of Job 25:5. The grandeur of the Lord who makes peace on the heights is praised, and the time mentioned before there was a moon that did not shine. Also Psalm 75:5, it says, thou whilst feared since the time of the sun, and before the time of the moon, a generation of generations. So, you know, there's mentions in the Bible as well, mentions all over the world of before the orbs came into being. So obviously the main three theories of how the moon actually came into existence is number one, the moon originated at the same time as the moon, being formed substantially from the same material, aggregate and solidifying in the same area as the Earth, and we grew together. The second is that the moon was formed in the vicinity of the Earth, but was a different part of the solar system and later captured by the Earth's gravitational pull and locked into orbit with us. Or the third one is that the moon was originally a portion of the Earth, which I believe was somewhere in the Pacific Ocean, something, the bed of that, which either had a massive explosion or cataclysm or something hit it, and that's where the moon then came from. So all three theories claim the presence of the moon in orbit around the Earth for billions of years. Mythology may supply each of these views with some support. Genesis, for the first view, the birth of Aphrodite from the sea, and the third view, Aphrodite's origin in the disruption of Uranus. I'll let you do your own Uranus jokes. And also the violence of sin and the Babylon moon seems to support the second view. So since mankind, obviously both sides of the Atlantic received the memory of the time when the Earth was without a moon still. So the first hypothesis, namely the moon originating simultaneously with the Earth and its vicinity, is to be excluded, leaving the other two hypotheses to complete between themselves. We've seen the traditions of diverse peoples in other collaborative testimony in the effect that at a very early age, but there is still a memory of mankind that cannot be shaken of having no moon. So more evidence then comes to light when you actually figure the fact that the Earth is younger than the moon. So this does suggest that the moon was created before the Earth and somehow came into orbit around us. So this brings us into the moon satellite theory then, I suppose. Is the moon a massive monitoring spaceship? Now there's been pictures taken, obviously, from lunar orbiters of weird structures and things on the moon, and I'm going to get into the moon landings as well in a minute. Let's just give you some facts then about the moon. So the moon is the 5th largest natural satellite. Natural, if you believe it to be natural, then fine. Natural satellite in the solar system. It's believed to have been created by a giant impact between the young Earth and a Mars-sized body. So they're claiming that two bodies impacted, something similar size to Mars, impacted with Earth around the Pacific Ocean region and created this body. After examination, it has been noted that the moon is apparently in the wrong orbit for its size. According to its current assumed density, astronomy data indicates that the internal regions of the moon are less dense than the outer, giving rise to the inevitable speculation that it could be hollow. So there are many things that actually back up this claim then. So if you've never heard this claim before, where have you been? Have you been living under some kind of rock where the moon doesn't exist? So some of these claims then come from the fact that when meteors strike the moon, it rings like a bell. More specifically, when the Apollo crew on November 20th, 1969, which I'm going to do in a little minute, released the lunar module after returning to the orbiter, the module impact with the moon caused a seismic equipment to register a continuous reverberation like a bell for more than an hour. That means it was ringing through the surface and back again and back again and back again for over an hour of recorded time. Also in July 1970, when members of the then Soviet Academy of Sciences, Michael Vasin and Alexander Shcherbakov, proposed the spaceship moon theory. So this is when it all started, and you can sort of see why, really. I mean, it seems like a crazy, outlandish thing to to put out there, but when you look at some of these facts, I mean, I heard this hollow Earth theory thing years and years ago, and I dismissed it straight away, thinking, okay, aliens are monitoring from the moon, are we? Okay, whatever. But the moon is locked into one side of us. We only ever see one side of the moon all the time. We never see the dark side of the moon. Now, if you believe what happened during the Apollo missions and some of the other missions to the moon, if you believe we went there, now I'm sort of still on the fence with Apollo, okay? Some of the video that they took looks too good. And at the time, we were in a race with the Soviet Union. Well, we weren't. America was in a race with the Soviet Union. And the best way to do it was just to claim that you'd been there. So I'm going to leave that up to you. If you have any comments on the moon landing, please leave them below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'm kind of on the fence about it. I do believe we have been there. I believe we have been to the moon. But did we go specifically then? Were those images beamed back to us like they were? And who the fucking hell recorded the spaceship leaving? They didn't have that, you know. No one's... these are the couple of the things that I'm like, guys... Really? Did you really do this? So the others, going back to the hollow moon thing then. So the pseudoscientific theory basically claims that the Earth's moon is actually an alien spacecraft. Vassin and Sukharov's thesis was that the moon was hollowed out. It's kind of planetoid, created by unknown beings with technology far superior to anything on Earth. And now this seems crazy at the time until you look at the actual texture and surface of the moon. Now, lunar crater impacts only go down to a certain depth. So any asteroids or meteors can only create shallow craters on the moon's surface, but produce a convex floor in the crater rather than a concave as expected, supporting the idea of a rigid outer shell. So whether something's been dug down and then material's been deposited on the outside, or whether it's being covered by dust or rock from somewhere else to make it appear like a moon. So I don't know, maybe like the Death Star on whoa, where did you come from? So maybe like the Death Star, you know, on Star Wars, where they've just covered it then in debris or something, or it's just because of the mass. I mean, you think of something that big floating around in space, it's going to gather a lot of mass. So maybe over time it has actually, you know, formed a rocky surface. And like I said, the Earth is actually older. The moon is actually older than the Earth. So the estimate for the Earth at the minute is about 4.6 billion years old. The moon rocks were dated to 5.3 billion years old. So now, unless the inner core was older and that's what's being deposited on the outside of it, who knows? But that does give credence, doesn't it, to, you know, whether it's actually been made. So some of the moon craters as well originate internally, yet there is no indication that the moon was ever hot enough to produce a volcanic eruption, giving more credence to the fact that it could have been hollowed out from the inside out. Even weirder still, professional astronomers have been gradually discouraged from investigating the phenomena that has been reported on the moon for thousands of years. It's a short-lived light, colour, or other changes in the appearance of the lunar surface, referred to as transient lunar phenomena. The moon is also known to contain a unique composition of materials. According to ancient code, it includes traces of metals that are not naturally occurring, such as brass. The amount of titanium that is found on the moon is also 10 times what is found in Earth. Scientists call this ratio mind-blowing. They also had difficulties drilling into the moon when they actually sent up the lunar rovers, and found that only a few inches under the surface could you then find metal and metal shavings, which you are then drilling into. So, you know, I don't know what to think about that one myself, but I have heard of that for a very long time. Now, these beings could possibly have brought the moon into existence and brought them here. There's a couple of different possibilities that I've heard and that you possibly have heard yourself. So, like I said, there are weird structures on the moon. And if you believe from what Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong and the other astronauts that have been up there have said, there's something up there. There's something, whether there's a base up there, whether there's UFOs that are flying around, there's something on the moon. And if you believe what they say, some of them say that they were told to leave the moon, never to come back again. Now, these beings on the moon could possibly be using us for food. Now, that is a terrifying thought. And I don't even think it's the eating flesh kind of food that you're thinking either. Energy. We have a soul. Now, something happened when we were created that gave us a soul. I'm actually doing in part of my book, End of Our End. This explains where we came from, actually, in that writing. So look out for it coming out at some bloody point. I don't know when it's coming out, but it will be coming out, and I will be doing a reading for you as well on here of the first part of End of Our End. But whatever happened created our soul, and these beings realized they could use the energy of our souls to feed upon. Now, this is a popular opinion, and yeah, they actually feed on negative energy, it's believed. Which, if you look at our planet, well, it's perfect, isn't it? Negative energies all around. Wars are always constant. So if these beings are manipulating us, are part of our society, are the lizard people. I've just said it, I've mentioned lizard people. Are lizard people, are whatever you want to call them, reptilian overlords, or this other race from another dimension, another reality just above us, that can feed off our energies and then send us back somehow by using the moon to maybe trap our spirit, our consciousness, and then send us back into another life to then live again. So they've got an endless supply of lovely negative emotions and negative energies. Obviously, the best way to combat that negative energy and that negative emotion is to love each other, to stop all this war and to stop all this crap. Unfortunately, I don't think that's ever going to happen, is it? So let's go on to the moon landings quickly then, shall we? Let's go from having your spirit taken and reincarnated over and over. Before I jump onto the moon landing very quick, tell me what you guys think about that. I've heard that story for the hollow moon thing. There's a million different versions of why the hollow moon is here. Is it here to protect us? Is it here to look after us? It does affect our mood. Scientists say it doesn't, but when they say there's a blood moon, you get the effect of the werewolf effect, as people call it, lunar madness. It does affect our minds and how we behave. So who's to say that it doesn't affect our souls somehow? Who's to say it doesn't trap us? A lot of us have memories of past lives. I know I'm digressing here. I have memories of either past lives or weird events or deja vu, things that we think we've lived through before. Maybe you have. Maybe the moon's captured your energies and sent it back. Who knows? So, obviously, the most famous moon landing that we know of is Neil Armstrong and Edwin Buzz Aldrin. On the 20th of July, 1969, they became the first Americans, first human beings to ever step foot on the moon. About 6.5 hours after setting off, they stepped out of the capsule and the famous words were said, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." So, like I said to you, the Apollo missions, were they, were they faked at the beginning? And I can see why they would be faked, we all know, Apollo 13, when Tom Hanks, didn't reach the moon. I can't believe the filming of that documentary is just incredible, isn't it? And the fact that Tom Hanks then became an actor afterwards, just incredible. The career that guy has had is just amazing. He is first he's an astronaut, and then he becomes a toy. I don't know how he does it. I really don't. But yeah, I don't know. Some of the videos, some of the stuff on there. I think we went up there, but then you've got the Kuiper Belt, you've got radiation. Tinfoil does actually stop the radiation, by the way, for anyone going, oh, you went up into... It does actually stop the radiation. You don't need a lot of metal to actually defer the radiation from you. So that's not a thing. But I do think that the first initial videos, the first initial moon landing was faked. I honestly do. I think they filmed it all before they went there, just in case anything went fucking wrong. If the rocket had blown up halfway there or something, they still had video evidence to say, Russia, we beat you. You know what I mean? And then it could have been, oh, well, the lunar module blew up on the way back here, unfortunately. But, you know, we've got this final video from Buzz and from Neil. It makes perfect sense. Cover your ass, you know, cover your ass. Make sure you won the space race, you know. And if there is beings up there that live on the moon, now, if you believe in astral projection, I can delve into this on this episode as well, because people have apparently astral projected to the moon and seen weird beings and been told to leave and get out of there, you know, don't come back. We know what you're doing. Well, obviously these beings work on an astral plane, like I'm trying to tie into on the episodes. You know, I believe that all this is tied in somehow to our spirit, to the spirit realm, to another dimension that we are meant to be in right now, but we are trapped. We are made to be here, which is why we have all these stupid laws and all these stupid crap forced upon us all the time, you know, and told to go and fight here and do this and do that. Maybe the moon's controlling it, or maybe the people on the moon are doing it. I was always taught when I was a kid there's a man on the moon, you know, so maybe that's the guy who's controlling. Maybe we need to have a word with him and say, oh, dude, what are you playing at, you know? What are you playing at? So thank you very much for listening to this episode. I hope you learned a few little bits. And I think what we've learned from this episode is that the moon shouldn't exist. You know, it affects everything on Earth. Affects us, affects tides, affects plants, animals, trees, you name it, affects everything. You know, without it, we'd be able to see a hell of a lot more of the sky, because it's, you know, I think it's 14,000 times brighter than Venus in the sky. Now, there's a video here for you, if you've stuck around long enough, that I took of the moon and Jupiter the other day, which you are seeing right now. I mean, just look how frigging bright that thing is. It illuminates absolutely everything. It almost looks like you could touch it, like you could just pick it out of the sky and put it in your pocket. Absolutely incredible. So please, guys, leave me your comments below. What do you guys think of the moon? It's a fascinating celestial body. It's the closest celestial body to us, you know, and we should be there already. Why don't we have bases on there already? You know, Elon, what's taking so long? I know we want to go to Mars, we need to go to Mars, but a staging platform on the moon would be absolutely genius. You build all your rockets, everything on there. You've already got low orbit. You don't need power to get off of there. You're out. You're in space. What's going on? Why are we still stunted? Why are we still here? Have we been told we've got to stay here? Have we been told by the people, no, sorry, you guys are too stupid to leave this planet yet? We can't let y'all out of here. I mean, look at you blowing each other up with nuclear weapons and bombing each other and killing and maiming and raping and doing all this shit. And why are all the aliens from South America? Oh, okay, yeah. I don't know. So please, guys, leave me your comments. Obviously, go and check out Trivial over on Spotify for us as well. That is a Conspiracy Cupboard podcast from now on. So, yeah, hope you've enjoyed this episode, people. And, yeah, go out and do a bit of moon gazing tonight. See if you can see the man on the moon and ask him, what the friggin' hell is going off? Until next time, I'll see you later. Welcome to Trivial, where we talk drivel with Mischief and
Mr. Dermy.
Look out for episodes every single week.